Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Wealth Defense Radio, the podcast. I am your host, Josh Inahosa, and I am an independent advisor representative for SWAN DFW, which stands for Sleep Well at Night, Dallas, Fort Worth, and I am here with my co-host, Hector Inahosa, who founded SWAN 11 years ago.
It is 11 years. Happy birthday, SWAN.
Yes, Hector is a certified financial planner, which is the top mark in our industry. He's been in the industry since 1995. So for those of you mathematicians out there, that is a while.
To be exact, a long while.
Yeah. So why don't you explain what we're doing this week and next week?
Well, there's been some research that's come out here recently that we're going to spend a couple of episodes on about are you ready to retire? And that normally we talk about the money. Is the income, is the pension, is Social Security, are the assets, can you survive on the budgets and all that? And all that's important. And we do that. I think we do that as good or better than anybody else in the industry, and get people to understand what it is we're doing. So we want to make sure you've got enough money to retire. But research is coming out that some folks are going into retirement and it's not what they thought it was going to be, and it's leading to some challenges. And we want to start talking about it now for those of us that are already retired, but as importantly, those of us that are 2, 3, 4, 5 years from retirement. There's some things maybe we should be kind of doing to prepare for that.
Yeah. But before we get into that, we have our news story of the day. You've heard one of the great slogans of our time is America runs on Dunkin'. Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, Dunkin' Donuts, okay.
Very catchy. Right now, some of America is not running on Dunkin' because they have a donut shortage.
A donut shortage.
Uh-huh.
Okay, how can that happen?
There was evidently a manufacturing error, so about 5% of Dunkin' locations across America don't have donuts or donut holes. Timbits for our friends up north. They're also called munchkins, apparently. Donuts and donut holes just not available at Dunkin' at 5% of places. Said one lady, "What? No donuts? That's tragic," before she went on to apparently order a coffee. So...
no donuts at a donut shop? Like no chicken at a chicken place? What's America coming to?
I know, right? They did take donuts out of the name. I think they're now just Dunkin'.
Yeah.
So...
maybe they could see this coming.
Yeah. Just thought that was kind of funny.
It is kind of funny.
Kind of interesting. Not something you want.
And tragic.
It is tragic.
Yeah.
So, we're doing a 2-part series. This is 10 things no one tells people about retirement. This is an article done by the Financial Advisor magazine. The link to that will be in the description wherever you are watching or listening. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and give us a like.
Please do.
And subscribe if you're new. We're doing the first 5 today. We're doing the second 5 next week.
Yeah, I think it's important. So he starts the article with an interesting, did you know? Did you know that 85% of people that break out of Alcatraz, which is kind of a big prison in San Francisco or in that area, I think, are caught within 24 hours? Now, you may be asking, well, what does that have to do with financial planning? Well, it's the fact that they have thought a lot about how to get out and not much about what to do or where to go once they get out. And so sometimes retirement planning is that way. We've spent so much time figuring the date and, when do we get out? When do we get to walk into our boss's office and say, I'm done, here's my retirement papers? And we've been planning that for 20 years or 5 years or some amount of time. But we haven't spent a lot of time on what's going to happen after we do that. And that's what we're going to spend some time on talking about today.
I think it's an important thing that gets overlooked a lot. like you said, you spend a lot of time trying to get to that day and then not a lot of time thinking about what's going to happen afterwards. I do find it interesting that we're comparing working to being in a high security prison.
Well, I think some of our listeners will agree that that's sometimes what it feels like.
Yeah, so let's get through these. So the first point here in the article is retirement is empty. Why don't you explain that?
Yeah, when you step out of your job, and for your job, you had a job description. And there was expectations of what you were going to do while you were there. You needed to get these reports in. You needed to oversee these number of people. So when you step into retirement, it's empty. There's nothing there. You have to kind of create it. And it's important to create it and do those things because something has to fill up your day. So we need to give some thought about what it is we're going to do. And the transition to that, if we're not careful, it can be very, very difficult. And so I think as we get closer to retirement, we need to start thinking in terms of, so what are we going to do once we no longer come to work? And playing golf, as much as I love golf, every day in retirement doesn't work. And we've had a client who said, I'm going to do that. And after about 60 days, I talked to him and he said, man, this is like work. And so that stopped being fun and started being like another kind of a prison. So be thinking in terms of, one, realize it's going to take you a little bit to transition. And the second thing is, let's be thinking about what it is we're going to do to fill our time that's valuable. Sitting in front of the TV and watching the news channel or reruns of I Love Lucy, or even clips of the Big Bang Theory, which I hear some people do, may not be the best way to spend retirement.
Yeah, it says here research supports 76% of retirees have seen someone struggle with the transition to retirement, and 43% reported that adjusting to retirement was harder than they expected.
Yeah.
So it's a common problem. It's not just a few people.
Yeah, and don't be surprised with the transition. And then don't get depressed over the fact that you're having a hard time adjusting to retirement. Just know that it's a normal thing, but hopefully we've given it some thought before we retired, so we can have a one of those picturesque kind of retirements that we see in the books all the time.
Yep. Let's move on. Number 2, beware of the dark side. It says your mental health should be a much higher priority to understand and manage than a stock market crash turning you into a homeless person.
Yeah. I mean, if that's what the research shows, okay, I don't see it that way, but okay. But being weary or aware of the dark side, we spend all of our time at an office or with workers, and we have our social back and forth, and we have people we go to lunch with and people we talk about, and we have common goals, and we're doing all those things. When we retire, many of those things go away, even when people in your retirement party say, yeah, we'll stay in touch and you'll always be one of the guys or one of the girls and it'll be awesome. It can't be, because you're not going to be there day in and day out going through whatever the trials and tribulations of the day are. The same things you were trying to run away from are the things that it's going to occupy their lives. So you're out there alone. Sadly, it's reported that retired people are twice as likely to report symptoms of depression than those who are still working. And that's not a good thing. And some of the way sometimes we self-medicate for depression is drugs and alcohol, and that ain't good either. So again, not only staying busy, but doing important things, maybe volunteering, maybe being part of a ministry, maybe helping people with lives. And it doesn't have to be an 8-hour day, but having something that you're doing that is valuable and not spending a lot of time alone and a lot of time in front of a TV or a lot of time, listening to podcasts and stuff. Being active socially, I think, is a real important part, and we just need to be prepared for that.
So our next thing here is the wrong top 10 list. Why don't you explain what that is?
Well, the stress in retirement is one of the most stressful things that will happen in one's life, right? Buying up a new home, getting married, getting fired from a job. There's a lot of things, but in the top 10 life events, retirement is pretty stressful. And you got to remember, for most of us, we started working at maybe 18 or 20, and then we worked till 65. Say, well, we've done life one way for 45 years, and all of a sudden we're moving into a whole different way of doing life. And there's no paycheck on the 1st and 15th or the end of the month or week or whatever it is. And so there's a lot of things that are changing. You don't have the people around you that you've had for a long period of your time. So it's important, especially for men. Women do a really good job of this, but especially for men, is that within about 5 years of retirement, that men start building relationships with people outside of their work. Maybe it's at the gym, maybe it's at church, or volunteering at Meals on Wheels, and you start developing friendships there. Because once you retire and you don't have these male friends at work anymore, you may find yourself home alone, and you start going with your wife everywhere she goes. And while might be really cool for you, may not be really cool for her, especially if you're trying to join her and her friends for lunch or coffee. And so it's important for men that we develop our own network. Maybe it's people we play golf with, or we go bowling with, or we go, clean widows' yards, or something that we have relationships with men, separate and away from our wives. Yeah. So yeah, that's a matter of fact, one of the coolest stories here. So this guy wants to buy an older car, a collector car, and rebuild it himself. And there was a big discussion about, was there enough money? And the wife had to sign off, and the advisor said, yeah, I think we can do it. And it's one of the best decisions ever made, because what happened is, I think we saw it when we were in South Carolina with Mustangs. When he bought the car, he joined a whole network of people that are all car enthusiasts, and they have these car shows. And so not only did he have something to do on working on the car, but then he had things to do on the weekend to go show the cars and stuff like that. So it became a social network for him, and it was really, really good for his retirement. And I think the guy writing the article there, not this one, it was like his brother-in-law or something. So it worked very, very well.
Quickly here, retirement isn't just a feeling. I think at the first little bit of retirement, the first 30 or 40 days, you have a big sense of accomplishment. You're pretty happy. There's a big weight off your shoulders. But that does not last the full amount of time that you're retired. A lot of people are retired for 20, 30, 40 years. And so that feeling does not stay as strong in retirement.
Right. Yeah, again, it's a whole different way of doing life. They've been employed for 30 or 40 years, and now they're entering a different place, and you would think that you're going to feel this way, and you may feel different, and you may think, well, what have I done wrong? Well, you haven't done anything wrong. It's a very natural thing of how people are feeling as they're adjusting for retirement. And so, I hate to use the word work, but maybe we use the word work, is we have to work at feeling good in retirement. And don't trust your feelings, because feelings lie to you. Mm-hmm. So just make sure you're doing the work, that you've set out some goals and you're doing some things, and the feeling will change. If you do the work, the feeling will change.
The last thing here for this episode is up-and-coming distractions. Why don't you talk us through what that means?
Yeah, I think one of the things, obviously you lose the social connections at work, but you gain the freedom to do other things, to go to the gym, to read, maybe to even take a class. Mental stimulus and stuff is really, really good. And so you have to kind of protect that because folks, especially maybe adult children, might see you as a built-in babysitter. Might or ask you to do things, and while doing that from time to time might be a very good thing, if it takes you away from the things that are going to stimulate you, eventually you'll be back in the same boat that we've been talking about. So make sure that you've created some things that you're going to do to keep mentally active and physically active, and also protect that from things that may come up, that from time to time you may have to go help somebody do something, but if it becomes a daily thing, then you're going to get away from your thing and you're going to make a big circle back to not feeling productive long term.
Yep. So those are the first 5 things that people don't tell you about retirement.
Yep.
Next week, we're doing the last 5 things people don't tell you about retirement. We'll do a 2-parter.
Yeah, retirement doesn't eliminate work. The lost and found table that
Well,
your
don't
kids
spill the beans.
Well,
They got to
just-
come back for next week.
But you can hear the topic, and then we'll have this tremendous insight. But yeah, just be aware that there's some planning more than just financial that has to happen for your retirement to be really, really good. And you'll be happy, your spouse will be happy, and your kids will be happy to watch you really enjoying your retirement.
Yep. So if you have any questions about how to get to retirement and beyond, we're here. We're not just podcasters. Believe it or not, we actually do retirement planning.
I think after they listen to this podcast, they're saying, I'm glad you're just not podcasters. You don't have a big career in podcasting, but we are very good financial advisors.
Yes, that we can do. If you would like to talk to us, we have a couple different ways that you can do that. The first way is via email address, and that is info@swandfw.net. That's info@swandfw.net. Or we have a phone number, and that is 888-SWAN-DFW. That's 888-792-6339.
Now, when that happens, you'll get either one for me, or 2 for Josh. And if neither one of us is available, then it'll go to a voicemail. But I promise you, if you leave a voicemail on there, we'll get back to you before the end of business that day. Unless you call at 11:58 or so p.m., then that might be a little tricky. It might be the next morning. But we'll get back to you quick.
Yeah, well, if they call it 11:58 p.m., that's not during business hours, which is what doesn't matter. If you call,
We'll call you back.
we'll call you back if we don't answer the first time, just as soon as we can.
Yep.
Try to work around Hector's golf schedule and rigorous other activities like Big Bang Theory watching.
Very important.
And such.
Mount Kilimanjaro training.
That's true. He's going to climb a mountain.
Got to climb a mountain.
And you can hear all about those endeavors on the next episode of Wealth Defense Radio. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you all on the next one.
Thank you for I hope you're off to a great start for this new year, and thanks for listening, and give us a like and share this with somebody. Thank you so much, and God bless.
The preceding content is informational only and based on information available when created. It is not an offer or solicitation, nor is it tax or legal advice. It does not consider your financial circumstances and objectives and may not be suitable for you.